Hi everyone, thanks for joining me for another Cricut tutorial. Today we're going to make these super cute monogram zipper pouches with a lining. I think these turned out super cute. If you don't have a Cricut, you can follow along. I give you all of the measurements in the video portion of Cricut Design Space, and you're welcome to make your own pattern out of paper and then use that to cut your fabric. But if you have a Cricut, stay tuned. I'm going to show you how to make your own pattern right in Design Space. So here we are in Design Space. The first thing we need to do is grab a couple of shapes. So we're going to click on the square 3 times. We're going to set that aside. Click on one of your squares and unlock Keep Proportions. Click on the width in the upper menu bar and change the width to 5 inches and change the height to 6.75. Perfect. Now click on it over in the Layers panel and change the color to cream. This is going to represent the cream colored canvas fabric that we're using in the project. We can set that one aside. Click on another square, unlock Keep Proportions, and we're going to change this one to 9 by 6.75. And we can change that one to cream as well. This is going to be, oops, grab the wrong one. Make sure you're on the right square. There we go. Change that to cream. So this is going to be the back of our bag. This is the middle of the front of our bag. All right. Let's click on our square. Keep building our pieces that we're going to need. And we're going to, let's duplicate it one more time. Set one aside. We're going to grab this one and we're going to unlock Keep Proportions. And we're going to change this one to 2 inches wide by 6.75. And that's basically all the shapes that we need, but we still need to do a couple of things. So we're going to grab this other square and we're going to leave it in the lock position, and we're going to change this to a 1-inch square by typing 1 inch. There we go. And just to make things easier, let's change this tab. This is going to be green in our project. So I'm going to change it to this green color, or maybe this one. All right. Now we have our rectangle, our 1-inch rectangle, and we're just going to put it over here so we can grab both those rectangles, or the square and the rectangle. And we're going to go up to align bottom, and then align right. And that's going to put this square right in the lower right corner of the rectangle. And while they're both still selected, we're going to go over here and click Slice, or you can right click and click Slice. Perfect. So we're going to need 2 of these. So I'm going to duplicate this shape, but this one needs to be flipped. It's going to go in the opposite direction. So we're going to click Flip Horizontal. And now you can see this is going to be the middle of the bag, and this is going to be the pattern on the sides. So that's what we've just built there. Now we need to put the square knockouts right here on the back of our bag. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to grab that square again, grab the back piece, and we're going to select Align bottom, align left. And while they're both selected, Slice. And now we can move that square over here, get rid of this one. Do it again, select both of these, hit align bottom, align right. And while they're both selected, Slice. And now we've made that pattern piece. So here we have the front and the back of the bag pieces. Now we need the lining pieces, and the lining pieces are just 2 of this piece. They're the exact same measurements as this piece. So all we're going to do is duplicate this one once, twice, and let's change the color to what our lining is going to be. My lining is going to be a white with a green polka dot, so I'm just going to change it to white, and we're going to click on another one and change it to white. So you need 2 white pieces cut like this. You need, let me zoom out a little bit here so you can see what we've got. We've got the 2 white pieces, we've got the canvas back, We've got two smaller pieces and the canvas middle. So this is the front of our bag, this is the back of the bag, and this is the lining. Now if you wanted to, you could make the lining the same as this green fabric. That would be really cute. Either way, whatever works for you, that is perfect. And the only other thing we need is the initial or whatever you want to put on the front. It doesn't have to be an initial. You could use a shape, but I'm going to use an initial. So I'm just going to click on text and type the letter A in lowercase. I just like the way that looks. And I'm using the Cricut Sans font, but if you want to change it, you can use any font you want. But I'm going to leave it just as is. And oops. I'm going to click on it and I'm going to make it, you can make it as big or as little as you want. You don't want to make it as big as this entire area because this is going to be the bottom of the bag. So I would encourage you to make it somewhere in the neighborhood. Mine is 3.3 by 4.2. Somewhere in that neighborhood. 3 by 4 would be fine, whatever it works out to be. I'm just eyeballing it. There's not a magic number, but you want it somewhat, I might go just a tad bit smaller. Let's just make it 4 by 3.2. So the first thing we need to do is get our fabrics ready to cut on the Cricut. So let's jump over and I'll show you how to prepare those. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is cut a piece of HeatnBond fusible adhesive. This is the light and it is sewable. So if you're going to wash this at all, you want to make sure that you use the sewable light, not the ultra hold. And I'm just cutting a piece that will fit on this scrap piece of fabric. This is the fabric I'm going to use to cut my letter. And you just apply it to the shiny side, or the rough side is down on the back side of your fabric. And you just use a hot iron and a little bit of steam and it sticks in no time flat. Do not peel the backing off until it cools. And once it's cooled, you can just peel off that backing and you will see it leaves an adhesive on the back that is shiny. Just set that aside. And next we're going to work on our other piece of pattern fabric, and for that we're going to use some HeatnBond fusible interfacing. This is a craft, it's extra firm. This is what it looks like in the packaging. You can also buy this by the bolt in some of your fabric stores, but I really like this one. It's extra firm. It gives the bag a really nice body. You'll notice that one side has a slightly shiny texture. You can't really feel a difference, but the shiny texture is the adhesive, and that goes face down on the wrong side of your fabric. Again, you're going to use a hot iron, and I like to use steam. You don't have to use steam. Keep the iron moving, because if you leave it set too long, due to the pockets in the bottom of your iron where the steam comes out, it can leave little areas that are not getting adhered well, and it also can leave an imprint in your interfacing or on your fabric. Next, we're going to prepare our canvas. Now I'm just cutting a piece that's slightly bigger than what we need, and I love using the Cricut acrylic ruler. It makes it so easy to cut, and along with the mat, the cutting mat, and the rotary hand cutter, all I do is line up the ruler with the edge of my fabric with the straight edge, and then the marks on the ruler match the marks on the mat. So I can tell that it is exactly straight, it's exactly centered, it's super easy, and that way it's really easy to get nice corners. So I really think it's worth the pairing of the mat with the ruler to make all of your sewing come out perfect. So we're going to cut our canvas pieces approximate to size, and then we're going to apply the same HeatnBond interfacing to the back side of the canvas. And you're going to do that on both of your canvas pieces, both the front and the back. Apply the HeatnBond interfacing. Another tip I have is to use the brayer to secure the fabrics on your mat. This makes it super simple, and it really gets those edges stuck down well. Okay, once you have everything cut out, you should have two lining pieces. You should have your letter. You should have your two side pieces. I do have an extra tab in there that I was going to use, and I decided not to. You'll have your two canvas pieces, and you need a zipper that is at least as long as your longest canvas piece. I'm using one that's a little bit longer. I think that makes it a lot easier. So the first thing we're going to do is use our smaller canvas rectangle and our two side pattern pieces. We're going to set everything else aside. You're going to line up your, this is how it's going to look on the front of the bag. So what we're going to do, you want to make sure those corners are facing out, and then you're going to turn it in and line it up with the edge so that the corner is now facing in, but you're looking at the back side of the fabric. You're looking at your interfacing. So you're turning both sides in and you're lining it up with the edge. To show you a little cheater method here, I'm going to use a ruler, and I'm going to mark 1/4 inch from the edge with a Pilot friction pen. It's erasable with an iron. You could have your Cricut draw these lines for you, but sometimes I find those fabric markers show through the fabric and I didn't want to risk it. So I am just using the Pilot friction pen and I'm marking 1/4 inch, and that's going to be my sewing line. So that's going to make sure that I stay in the seam allowance that I need to be. If you're great at eyeballing it or perfect at sewing, you know, straight lines, not a problem. I just wanted to make sure I got this right, and I just find this really easy way to do it. So once you have that done, you're going to sew right along those lines that you drew. I just clipped it into place. And once you have stitched it into place, cut off any stray threads. You can unclip it. And because this interfacing is so stiff, you kind of have to coax it open. So I'm just finger pressing it open. And I'm going to finger press those seams open. And then I'm going to take it to the iron and give it a little extra help. And here I am just giving it a little bit of steam to help those seams stay open. Again, this interfacing is kind of stiff, and that's fine. That's going to give the bag a lot of structure, but you kind of have to help those seams stay flat. Now we're going to apply our fabric letter or your fabric shape, and you want to make sure that you orient it so that the notches, the square notches in the front panel are facing down and the top of the letter is facing the top. So the notches are on the bottom and the top of the letter is facing the top. Now you want to put your letter about 1 inch to 1.5 inches down from the top. Where the notches are is going to become the bottom of the bag. Here I'm just measuring, it's about 1 inch on mine. The notches in the bottom on the bottom is going to become the bottom of the bag, so you want to make sure you don't put it down in that area. Once you have it in place the way you want it, just apply a little bit of heat and it will be set. If you want to be able to wash this bag, you need to stitch around the edges. You can do a zigzag or you can just do a straight stitch, whatever you want. I'm just going to do a straight stitch. All right, once you have your monogram secured into place, it's time to add the zipper. Now, you guys know I am a huge fan of the Wonder Tape when using zippers. You don't have to use this tape at all, so don't run out and buy it, but I think it makes it a lot easier. It makes my zipper installation go a lot smoother and a lot straighter. So this is a 2-sided tape, and what you do is just stick it right along the edge. You don't want it too close to the teeth because it'll show. But you stick it right along the edge, and if you wash the bag afterwards, this tape disappears, but it doesn't really show, so it doesn't matter. But you secure it into place, and then you peel off the backing. And then you're going to take your front panel, and you're going to apply it right along the edge of that side of the zipper. So your zipper pull is face up, and you're applying it to the top side of the zipper, not the bottom, the top. And you just press it into place, and it's going to hold it without having to mess with pins. Now you might want to turn it over and double check, make sure everything looks straight before you sew it down. But you're going to take that over to your sewing machine and you're going to stitch right along that edge. Make sure that your seams are open, but stitch right along that edge into place. All right, I've sewn one side of my zipper into place. I'm using a colored thread so that you can see it. And you can see if you fold it open, your zipper should be looking something like this. So go ahead and leave it down and then grab one of your lining pieces and you're going to put it face down. So you've got the pretty sides together, the zipper sandwiched in between. And you can again use Wonder Tape if you want. I don't find that I need it as much on adding the lining side. But you want to line it up, make sure your sides are lined up, and it should go right on top of the lower fabric, the zipper sandwiched in between. You're going to take it over to your sewing machine, and I find it easier just to turn it over and sew right along that previous stitch line. So go ahead and secure the lining to your zipper. And it should look something like this. Now we're going to repeat it for the back side. I'm going to put another piece of Wonder Tape down on the opposite side of the zipper. Again, the zipper pull is facing up now. You can see the monogram side. Going to secure the tape. And again, you want to make sure you keep that on the edge. You don't want it sticking out on once we flip this all right side out. You don't want to be able to see that tape. You're going to peel it off and you're going to put your canvas face down so you're looking at the inner facing, and you're going to sew right along that top seam. Again, it's good to check it from both sides, make sure that everything's straight and lining up, and then sew right along that zipper and secure that side. So this is where we are. We're going to add our second lining piece. You're going to put it face down against the other lining piece so that the pretty sides are touching, and line that up and go ahead and sew that. Now you can sandwich all this and sew it at once, but I find this really makes a much neater zipper installation. So once you have the two lining pieces adhered, this is what it should look like. I'm just smoothing it out and using my fingers just to press it away from the seams. I'm going to take it to the iron and press it flat. Once I have it pressed flat, I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and top stitch right along the edge of both sides of the zipper. Okay, I have my top stitching done, and what I'm going to do is unzip the zipper a little bit, and I like to just put a little clip right here on the tails to hold it together, and then I'm going to take it over to my sewing machine, and I'm just going to sew across that zipper to give it a stop so that it doesn't come off. All right, now it's time to start putting the bag together. You can remove the clip. You want to undo your zipper about 3/4 of the way. It doesn't have to be all the way, but it does need to be unzipped. Very important. You're going to pull your two outer pieces together and your two lining pieces together. So it should look like this. Now you want to try to line up those corners, and things may have shifted a little bit. It's okay. We can trim it up. But you want to line up the corner of the notches that we cut out. So I'm trying to line these up, and you can see mine is shifted just a little bit. They're not exactly perfect, but I am lining it up, and I'm going to clip it. And then I can just use my scissors and make sure that the notches are exactly the same on both pieces. So I'm just cutting out this little bit on one side. You can just see my fabric shifted a little, and that's perfectly normal. It's perfectly fine. And I'm going to do the same on the lining. I'm going to line up those corners. And I'm going to make sure everything is laying nice and flat. And again, if your corners, the corners are the most important part. I'm not so worried about the side being a little bit off, but the corners need to be square with one another. So I'm just going to trim this one up just a hair. And I love these Cricut scissors. All right, now you want to continue to pin this down. And this is the part I found the hardest part to understand and to see in a video. So I'm going to try to do my best to show you close up what I'm doing. A lot of people don't like the way the ends of their zippers look, and this is the trick. And I watched so many videos trying to figure out the correct way, and I found this is the method that's working the best for me anyway. You want to make the teeth of the zipper go towards the lining, and the tails, the sides that don't have the zipper teeth on it, are going towards your outer fabric. So I'm folding the tails down towards my outer fabric, and the teeth are going towards the lining. So again, we're going to push the teeth towards the lining, and the tails that don't have teeth are going to go towards the outer fabric. And it kind of wants to do that naturally, but this will help you have cleaner edges without doing the zipper tabs. I was going to do zipper tabs on this one, but I changed my mind. So again, put the teeth towards the lining and the empty tails towards your outer fabric. And go ahead and finish clipping it into place. I'm going to make sure this doesn't shift while we're sewing. And I'm going to use a couple of pins just to mark an area so that we can turn this right side out. Now, technically, you could sew this closed and turn it right side out through one of those notches, but that's an awfully small opening. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave about a 4-inch opening between the two pins that we're not going to sew. And again, make sure your zipper's unzipped. You still have time to unzip it if you haven't. Have it all pinned into place. You're going to take it to the machine and you're going to sew from the edge to the pin. Make sure you backstitch. Don't sew between the two pins and sew off that edge. And then you're going to sew down the right side, sew down the bottom, and down the left side. Do not sew in any of the corners. Any of those square corners, you are not going to sew anywhere in there. You're just going to sew down the sides, down this side, down this side, down this side, and those two areas outside of the pins. Okay, so I wanted you to see my seams just in case that was a little confusing. You can see I sewed up to the pin on the two sides, and then the long sides are sewn solid, and I have the opening right here in the bottom. Now what you're going to do is reach inside that opening and pull that corner out where we've cut the little squares out, and you're going to line the seams up, push one seam one way and one seam the other way, just like this, and then you're going to sew about 1/8 of an inch right across that straight edge, and make sure that you backstitch and sew on and off of the edge of the fabric. Okay, this is what it should be looking like. Now you're going to repeat the same process for the other 3 corners. You're going to reach inside the hole and spread the corner out, match the seams up, push one seam one way, one seam the other way, and sew. Use the same seam allowance on all 4 corners so that your corners will all be the same. To get the other corners, you can just reach inside the hole and spread it out. It's a little bit more difficult because of the interfacing, makes it a little more stiff, but you do the exact same thing. You're going to line up the seam, push one way, one the other way, and do all 3 of the remaining corners. Once you have all 4 corners sewn, you can go ahead and clip your zipper tails off. I'd recommend you don't use your good sewing scissors for that. So clip those off, and you can reach inside the opening that we left and turn the bag right side out. And again, the interfacing makes this pretty stiff, so it's a little bit, you have to work it a little bit, and that's why you want to make sure you backstitch at the beginning and ending of that opening that we left. So go ahead and work it right side out. Once you have it right side out, make sure that you reach in and push all 4 corners out of the outer fabric. I've used a pretty thick canvas. Depending on your fabric, you might need to use a bone folder or something to get in there and really push those corners out nicely. But you should have a nice boxed bottom, and it helps to undo the zipper. And your lining is sticking out, so you want to make sure that it also has the corners pushed out. And then you're going to kind of pull it. Here I'm just pulling my box corners out, and then you're just going to kind of pull it, and it's going to naturally fold under. You're going to fold both of those pieces under, take it over to the sewing machine, and stitch that opening closed. Now, if you want to hand stitch this so that it's not as noticeable, you can definitely do that. You could also use some Wonder Tape, but keep in mind that if you wash it, the Wonder Tape will dissolve. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. I think these are a lot of fun and really cute. Will make some great gifts. This is a smaller version. All I did was reduce all of the measurements by 1 inch. So you're welcome to try that. And I think these are going to be a lot of fun. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please like, subscribe, and share. I do have all the products used linked in the description below this video. And I hope that if you make them, you will tag me on social media so that I can see your version. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.